Guys, welcome back to the show. I'm joined in studio with James Lionheart Dixon. James, how you doing? How you feeling? How you preparing for November 23rd?
I'm feeling great. It's been man. I think by the time I've got in there, it would have been close to 2 years since being out of the cage. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting in there, kicking somebody's leg, taking somebody down, and elbowing their nose. You know how it is.
Are we gonna see? I say, are we gonna see? I hope we see the knockout power that we saw at BKFC your last win.
Yeah, I mean that's always up for display. I think if you watch probably each one of my pro fights, apart from my debut pro fight, I've knocked all my opponents down from memory. Obviously, you got a plethora of knockouts at amateur, both MMA and K1 in Sanshao. So, yeah, I think in all my fights, you'll see an element of knockout power, provided my opponent obviously gives me the opportunity. If he wants to go straight to a grapple, then it is what it is. But the beauty of this sport is obviously we have ground and pound. So I'm sure we'll see it.
For me as a fight fan, I do enjoy. To me, I'm gonna be honest. Although I'm not in the cage, there, I've never competed professionally. I've seen the sport on screen, cage side. But I have to say that as a fight fan, and you may hate me for saying this, other listeners and viewers out there may hate me for saying this, but I love the knockouts, the spinning elbows when the fight finishes with a shock. You know what I mean? With a bloody
Yeah.
mess. For me, that's yes, I'm gonna remember that guy's name. I'm gonna remember who he is, you know.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think even the MMA purist trying to deny the fact that in each in our brains that we all like a knockout. I love the technicality of MMA. I love grappling, of course, but there's just something about a knockout and the violence of it. Like you said, when somebody's in a bloody mess on the floor, or there's a spinning heel kick, spinning elbow, something just absolutely unusual and extreme. Yeah, there's just something about that is far more entertaining. It cannot be denied.
But about the upcoming bouts at Cage Warriors 181, November 23rd. What do you make of your opponent, as in what's your game plan going forward?
I mean, just by looking at his pro fights, he looks very similar to me stylistically. Really, bit of a boxer, a bit of a grappler. Um, yeah, I don't feel like I have to prepare for anything out of the unusual. He's not like one of my opponents being 6'6". He's not, say, a striking purist or a grappling purist. He just seems like a well-rounded MMA fighter. Um, the one interesting aspect will be he's been a middleweight, I believe, all his career. Myself, obviously, I've moved up the weight classes. My last bare knuckle boxing fight would have been MMA middleweight. It's boxing light heavyweight. So I have fought at that weight class before, but obviously in boxing, it's a little bit different from
Mhm.
boxing than MMA. So I feel that that's the interesting aspect of this fight is how his size will affect me. Will he carry a bit more power? Will he be able to absorb a bit more of a shot? How will our grappling engagements be? That's what I'm curious about.
It's still some time before fight day. Have you met the your opponent? Because one thing that I've noticed, and it does probably say a lot about how fighters probably are afraid of you, is that they keep pulling out of of fights, especially in the past. I mean, that is another question I was going to ask you. I mean, but still, I'm sticking to the first point. Have you met the opponent before?
Never before. No, I've got one of my sparring partners apparently trained with him many, many years ago. But no, no. I mean, maybe I've crossed paths with him, but at least not from memory. I've actually, I did see one of his fights again. This was many years ago when I was an amateur. It was at Cage Warriors. I believe he knocked out with a head kick Emil Brown. And that was just as I was walking into a venue, so I didn't really get to see much of the fight. I just walked in and pow, there was the knockout. So I mean, that's a great feather in his cap. Emil's a fantastic opponent. So I don't know whether it was just a lucky shot. Like I said, I didn't actually get to see it. I'd just seen the ending sequence. But yeah, that is literally from memory all I've seen of them in person.
Why have opponents always try to to avoid you? I mean, for me, myself, I feel like if I was in your shoes, if it has happened repeatedly, I'd want to just even just get them in front of me, sit them down and ask them just in a friendly manner, respectful manner, why is it you don't want to fight me? Is it, I mean, have you ever been pushed so much to just figure out what it is about you that they're probably running away from, that they're probably going to lose, or it's going to be a terrifying battle?
Um, so I honestly don't know. I've been in the sport for a long time. So if we look at my amateur debut, Christ, that would have been 12 years ago. And obviously, I'm only fights into my pro career. So I took quite a long time with my amateur and pro career to gain this experience, if that makes sense. So technically, when I spar with people, I like to think I'm better than a six fight pro. Um, so people might have that opinion of myself. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so they know that the grappling portion of the fight is not going to be easy.
Mhm.
As well as that, I've got knockout power. I've got a good low kick, and I'm happy to have a scrap. And I think that there is maybe the biggest fear element of a fight. Of course, they're fighters. They're not scared, don't get me wrong. But a lot of them, especially nowadays, aren't game for a scrap. We rewind the era of Chuck Liddell, of some of the all-time greats back in the day, and they were just guys straight out of a pub wanting to have a ding dong. Nowadays, we've got athletes, we've got people looking after their record, we've got people that maybe don't want to have the trauma of the fist fight. They like the idea of fighting, but they don't actually like the violence that encompasses a real fist fight. So maybe this is it. I don't know. I'm not going to put words and thoughts into people's mouths. I'm just glad I'm with Cage Warriors. I'm very certain Cage Warriors will secure me fights for the foreseeable. Um, so yeah, I can't complain.
I think what I take away from what you said there is that probably you're just too well-rounded. Every aspect
Mm.
of your arsenal is on point in check. That's probably the reason why they know there's something in their arsenal that probably isn't quite there. So probably you're fighting you for them for their fight record's far too risky, maybe.
I mean, it could be. It could be. I don't want to blow smoke up my own ass, but who knows? Who knows? I like to say that this next fight, maybe I can prove them right. Maybe we'll go out there and I'll show a well-rounded MMA game, and then maybe people will avoid me a little bit more.
How has fight camp been? Making weight, the saunas, your nutritionist, everything overall. How's it been?
I mean, I've never liked the term fight camp. Funny enough, I was speaking to to some of my guys today. I think at this level, at like an amateur level, a low level domestic level, when you've got to work as well as train, there shouldn't really be a fight camp. For me, if somebody says fight camp, they're probably not training year round. They're probably fighting, going on a bender, doing loads of sniff, drinking whatever, and then for a few weeks, even a month, then getting back to training and calling that fight camp. I coach full time. I have fighters underneath me, and I train year round. So my schedule doesn't train too much. I'll increase the amount of sessions I'll have per week. I'll increase the intensity. My strength and conditioning coach, who's a new addition to my training, who has definitely helped me tenfold. He will obviously look to peak me for a fight, and of course I'll diet to make weight. But I wouldn't call it a fight camp. When fighters obviously training full time, training 2, 3 times a day, doing their recovery and so on and so forth. Maybe then they can call it a fight camp. But I'm a little bit fed up of this fight camp terminology, just because fighters always say fight camp, and I look at them and they're not training that much more than somebody doing it as the hobbyist. One of these autistic kids train jiu-jitsu. They're at a fight camp year round and they ain't even fighting. So yeah, this terminology of fight camp and fighters thrown it around willy-nilly. I don't think they'll know what a fight camp really is if it hits them on the head.
Hmm. There's a lot to be a lot to dissect there. Um, so you do compete as well as coach and train other students you have under your umbrella. Um, how do you balance that between for instance, a situation like now, you've got a big fight coming up on a big promotion. How do you balance that? And if, say, you had a big name with a big promotion such as Cage Warriors, would you, because this is quite an exceptional bout you got ahead of you, would you maybe just temporarily pause any coaching you got and probably just throw all of your attention and energy at preparing for the upcoming fights?
No, no, not at all. I love coaching. Obviously, it's my job, so it gives me, it funds me financially to live. Uh, so I don't really have the luxury to not coach. Don't get me wrong. Even if I had all the money in the world, I like to believe I would still coach close to full time. It truly makes me happy seeing, whether it's the little kids I teach or whether it's the, young adults or the older guys compete or sorry train and possibly compete. It really fills my heart with joy. So I do think I'm going to be doing this until I physically can't. I mean, even after my bare knuckle fight, what I fought on Saturday, I was straight back in the gym Monday coaching. A, because I had fighters fighting within a few weeks, and B, because I don't want to be sitting on my ass at home, twiddling my thumbs. I love the gym. I love everyone in the gym. I love my fighters. I love my students. And yeah, I would rather be with them. So, um, yeah, regardless of the opportunity I'm given, regardless of the money I'm given, I do believe I'll forever coach, and I wouldn't pause it. I'm not selfish enough. Maybe that will hold me back in my career, but I like to think anybody that's met me would agree. I'm not a selfish person, and yeah, I'll always put others before myself.
You fought in BKFC as well as the other mixed martial arts promotions. So, I mean, out of the two, MMA and bare knuckle boxing, if you will, which of the two do you prefer or do you enjoy more?
So they were positive and negatives for both. So with the bare knuckle, I'm an extremist, So when people have got shock on their face, when people see you've done something absolutely insane, since I was a kid, I love it. There's just something about make people think, whoa, that I love. So the bare knuckle with that aspect was very exciting. And of course, I love a fight. I love a fist fight. I love violence. I don't feel like you can get any more violent than bare knuckle, with no gloves. The trauma that you can inflict on somebody and obviously can be inflicted upon yourself, it is something to behold. That being said, the whole taking the knee in the bare knuckle did anger me. I would have loved a karate combat style rule that if they drop, you maybe get like a 5 second follow up ground pound or something like this, just to make the fight a little bit more violent and to stop somebody utilizing the knee to get away from a combination, for example, or a series of attacks, because that was very frustrating. So yeah, there's pros and cons to it. I definitely love the bare knuckle element. I definitely love the fact that you toe the line. I don't know if you watched it, but you'll stand a meter or so away from your opponent, so you're straight away in range. I love that aspect. There's no, oh, you've got to feel your way in. You're having a scrap straight from the get go. It's a pretty small ring. Yeah, there's so many positives to be had with the bare knuckle. Just the take and the knee, that angered me so much. It was very frustrating within the fight. I just feel like a definitive win was taken away from me. I would have liked a knockout. Would have liked a ground and pound finish, but yeah, it is what it is.
So I mean, I was listening to one of your past interviews, and it's something you said about fighting in certain promotions, especially when mixed martial arts is concerned. And you say that some of the promoters do, in terms of finance, money we earn, they are really looking after you very well. I mean, I mean, going forward, what actually incentivizes you more? Is it money or let's say popularity? Because some promoters, even let's say the UFC, who are right at the top of the food chain, they're known for, okay, fine, we'll make you a star and everything. We can do that. But a lot of the fighters, of course, they're still to this day still complaining about the salary and stuff we could be should be earning our worth. I mean, but for you, is it mainly the money that incentivizes you, or where you can really showcase your skills to a bigger audience on a much larger and wider platform?
I think it really depends on the extremity. So if we're looking at the level I'm at, so we're looking at Octagon, Cage Warriors, Aries, etc., etc. You're probably looking at a couple of grand difference. In reality, I'm losing money to fight. I've got, when I'm away on fight week, if I do end up with injuries and all the training, etc., I've got to put in to fight, I'm hemorrhaging money. With Safe MMA and the medicals, it's costing a lot. So when we're looking at this domestic pro level, for the sake of a couple of grand, I don't care. I'm going to fight really for whoever. Obviously, when we're looking at, let's just say for argument's sake, PFL and UFC, that's when things get trickier. So if you're in the running with the PFL to earn 1 million, that's life-changing money. It cannot be denied. But, myself and I'm sure many other fighters would have grew up watching the UFC. And there's just something about the UFC that once you're a UFC veteran, it can't be taken away from you. You can tell your grandkids will tell their grandkids, you've you've made history in your bloodline to fight in the UFC. So that would be a tough one. I'd have to cross that bridge when I get there. It's not something I put much thought process to, but I believe I'd probably side with the UFC. I'm very passionate about representing my family and representing my bloodline very well. So I still remember vividly to this day. I was at a family gathering, and my mum goes to me, "Oh, one of my distant cousins or uncles, whatever it is, somebody I'd never met, but he was a pro boxer." And I remember just being in awe of this man, having a relative that was a pro boxer. And I always loved to research history of my name and my lineage, and to find warriors and interesting characters within my family. So I would like to be one of them. I would like to have several generations down the line, a kid researching the Dixon name or their lineage and having my name pop up. So whatever promotion will give me that platform, I would probably pursue over money.
Yeah, no, yeah, because money at some point runs out, but your name, people will never ever forget that, and it will live on the generations, so the younger generations behind them. And yeah, no, that does make a lot of sense. I like that a lot. Um, C, not CW, Cage Warriors 181 is going to be in Newcastle. Now, what's it like fighting away from your home turf? As in, do you feel, or in the past experiences, has it always, as in, has the crowd always treated you well, or do you still have memories of places where you've gone to, and even though you won the fight, the audience weren't exactly so nice to you? I mean, I've heard stories in some cases whereby the winning fighter will still get a hard time from the audience because they beat their fighter silly, as bizarre as that sounds.
Mm. I mean, this would be the furthest away myself I've fought from my home. So I've always fought locally, whether it's Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Leicester, Derby, whatever. So I'm Coventry. I've pretty much always only ever fought in the Midlands. Um, Obviously, I've had fighters, and I've went with my fighters to fight as far as Poland, France, Vegas. Of course, I flew all over the place to corner and coach. So this will be the furthest I've fought from home. Will people follow in terms of my own fans? I would hazard a guess, not many people. I've got a little bit of family in Newcastle, you know, um, you know, that I would usually have within Coventry. Within Coventry and the surrounding areas, you could be looking, around south. I remember once fighting as an amateur kickboxing in Leicester, fighting a Leicester lad, and we had to walk out on a stage, and no, actually, it was bizarre. Table seats on the stage, and I was getting booed. Like people, a few meters away me, booing me, and I remember screaming at the crowd and sticking my tongue out and just having a great time, shutting up the crowd. So um, yeah, that won't phase me. If the crowd so happens to be booing me or not screaming for me, whatever. Um, I'm partially deaf. I'm partially deaf. I'm partially blind. A, I'm not going to see nor hear it, and yeah. B, it's not going to bother me.
Does it say work in the opposite way? Does it drive you that when you enter that cage, when that door is slammed shut behind you, that it drives you even more, makes you more determined to come out as the winner in that fight?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just going to make winning so much more sweet. If you do happen to, beat a home guy in their home turf, on their home turf, sorry, that is definitely going to be far more satisfying. I think every fighter would agree with this. And I've got to say, fighting in your home city, that does. So my bare knuckle fight, I fought in Coventry, at the Sky Dome, so a place I'd been as a kid, ice skating and stuff, you know. That definitely carried a particular type of pressure that I was not used to. So yeah, it'll be nice fighting outside of my home. Makes things a little bit trickier with things like the rehydration, the weight cut, and um, just having friends to support me during the whole process of the fight. But it's a little bit of planning, and that won't be any issue.
Look, if I've asked you this before in our last interview, then I apologize. But look, for a fighter, you know, you look the part, but you speak very eloquently, very well. Have you not considered maybe, again, if I apologize for asking this before, maybe starting up your own podcast? Because for someone who speaks clearly, it would make you one of the few unique fighters who may look like someone who competes in the quite a brutal activity in sport, but still there's that very gentlemanly, eloquent side to you, and you can string a sentence together, you can have a proper, deep conversation.
Yeah, so it's definitely been something that's crossed my mind. So I'm very busy as it is with my coaching and my training. That is not something that I feel I'll be able to give true value to because I am an extremist. If it's something I'm going to do it properly. I'm not going to do it half-hearted. Just like my training, just like my coaching, I can't just dip my toes in. So it's something I've definitely looked to pursue. Even other avenues as well. I'm very passionate about food. So I've got a friend that I'd love to have a little. And my brother's a great cinematographer, so like a YouTube channel dedicated to food. I've definitely got many goals to pursue, but I think it would be once I'm done with fighting, then I'd maybe look to go down this route, whether it's podcast, whether it's a YouTube channel. Um, I know Dan Hardy personally, and seeing what he's done, I believe he was still to this day one of the best commentators. Dan Strauss as well for Cage Warriors. There's some phenomenal commentators that have either competed jiu-jitsu or MMA. So maybe even going down this route, I'm not too sure, but it's definitely something I've considered.
Speaking of commentary, I think that's something you'd actually do really well in as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'd have to be very careful not to be cancelled. I can sometimes say some wrong. I can cross the line a little bit. People that my students in the class will very much know what I mean. So I would definitely have to bite my tongue a few times and watch some of my analogies and terminologies for sure.
Just a few more questions before I round up because I know you're very busy. Is there any like a message you want to send to your opponent before fight day? Whether it's nice, whether it's kind of just that's kind of competitive streak, just anything you like to say.
No, no, I'm not in. I'm not into this. He knows what he signed up for. It is what it is. We're gonna have a scrap. Um, I've got no animosity before or after the fight. If I seen him on the street, I truthfully probably wouldn't even recognize him. So it doesn't matter to me. I hope he's prepared well. All the cliche things. I want him there to be in good shape. I want him to be in tip-top condition because I enjoy violence. And if he happens to knock me out, I'm prepared for it. I'm willing to live by the sword and die by the sword. So let's have a ding dong.
Just to get your opinion on the big fights happening this weekend at UFC 308, the headlining fight and the co-main event, Max Holloway versus ILIA Topuria. Who do you think is going to take the one away from that?
Literally every day. It depends what mood I'm in when I wake up as to who I'm picking. Um, so I'm a massive Max Holloway fan. Just his personality, I don't think anybody can dislike that man. Ilia Topuria, however, is on such a rise at the minute and he's looked so phenomenal. He's got knockout power at lightweight and featherweight, which is rare. Um, but that being said, I feel styles make fights, and I just don't know whether Ilya will be able to get on the inside against Max Holloway. My worry is Max Holloway's weight cut. Max Holloway, he looked to have gained good size for his recent fight at lightweight against Justin Gaethje. So I can only imagine, of course I don't know, but I can only imagine this would have been a bigger cut to featherweight because he just looked a little bit more muscular. Will that affect his chin? Will that affect his reaction time, etc., etc.? I'm interested to see that because having a partially damaged chin against Ilia Topuria is very dangerous. But let's say we see a good, healthy Max Holloway, the weight cut's no issue. I feel like I'm going to edge towards Max Holloway. Um, when he fought Calvin Kattar, who everyone considered to be one of the best boxers in the UFC, we saw exactly what happened. Just the pace and the striking repertoire of Max Holloway and the power. I mean, what he did to Gaethje, he isn't throwing handbags there. He can crack. He knocked out Korean
Yeah.
Zombie as well. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Holloway. I'm gonna go with Holloway, but that is a pick 'em. I'm not a gambling man, but if I was, that would be a 50-50. It's very hard.
Yeah. Next one, Robert Whittaker versus Hamzat Chimaev, the co-main event.
Yeah, for me, this is easy. I mean, don't get me wrong. Of course, Whitaker, he sometimes struggled to show up against some fighters. Um, Dricus Duplessis, he seemed a bit unusual, and even his Adesanya fights, not all there. But again, Robert Whitaker, huge fan, great character. Just your average man, plays video games, seems to be a great dad.
Yeah.
Very relatable. I love this character. Um, and I just think he's too well-rounded. His striking is far superior to Chimaev's. Chimaev's powerful, but he got dropped by Gilbert Burns. He arguably got outstruck by Usman, and Usman arguably won on a week's or 2 weeks' notice. Um, Robert Whitaker's worked his wrestling considerably, so will Chimaev out wrestling? Maybe, but Robert Whitaker's got 5 rounds worth of cardio, easy. So I would personally have Robert Whitaker via stoppage, round 4 or 5. I don't think Chimaev is the monster he's made out to be. I think Usman and Gilbert Burns have proven this. I believe it's a little bit of fluff. The UFC are in the Arabs' pocket, and Chimaev is one of their stars. So I think the UFC are just you know being friendly with the Arabs via Chimaev. But yeah, I think Robert Whitaker will go out there and and outwork him. Whether he loses the first round, gets wrestled, or maybe even gets hurt a little bit early on, but Chimaev will blow his load, and yeah, I can see a stoppage within 4 or 5.
It's funny that you say that the UFC and the Arabs pocket because again, the UFC have had this issue with the judging whereby any casual fan or any person who's not a fight fan just watching the fight will see that hold on a second, this person clearly won the fight just by seeing how they performed in the cage. Then bizarrely enough, the other person takes home the win. I mean, do you think it's something that could potentially happen maybe this time? Like we some
Um,
misjudging.
yes, if there was ever going to be a location to where this would happen, it would be, you know, Saudi, Dubai, those types of areas. Like I said, I do truly believe that just like the Arabs are dominating boxing now, money talks. And I mean, it's so easy to see. You just see the fighter embedded, for example, you know, fighters that are there talking about, you know, Saudi and stuff. No, nobody's saying a bad word. Nobody's saying a bad word. I've never been, so I'm not going to go and say a bad word. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel everybody is a shill for money, and they have got copious amounts of money. So yeah, I mean, it's clear to see Dana White is a money man, and money will do his talking. So yeah, I could definitely see all the Arabs' favorite fighters being favorably looked after by the refs, by the judges. You know, whether it's impacted by the crowd's cheer, whether it's impacted by a little bit of backhand of money, I don't know. I'm not going to claim to know. Who knows? But I would definitely. There's a reason why they fight there. There's a reason
Yeah.
why. Of course, the Arabs like them fighting there, but they get looked after.
Last but by no means least, any shout outs you want to give to your family, friends, coaches, any affiliates?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, everyone at Lions Gym, um, my team at Lions Gym, both training partners, coaches, and students, they all fuel me and get me ready for a fight. Even just your average Tom, Dick, and Harry. Your person who's training just as a hobbyist. I still spar with them. I still learn from them. So they all fuel me and allow me to fight. Um, Definitely my boxing coach Brandon. I've worked with him for a long period of time now, and he's really developed my boxing. My new strength and conditioning coach Craig at Sparta Fitness. It's without a doubt I started working with him earlier this year, and my fitness feels on a different level. So he's really up my level of fitness. And then a couple of sponsors as well. Men's grooming company. Although I have no hair, he did sponsor. He started to sponsor me when I had hair, and unfortunately, he invested wrongly. He right. Insight supplements. It's a new sponsor I've got on board, and they're sorting me out with some supplements that really just take a little bit of the burden off fight preparation as such. Being able to have my whey protein and my multivitamins taken care of.
James, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm very, very grateful. As again, I know you're very busy and busy getting ready for the bouts in November. Guys, if you watch this episode on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button and please don't forget to subscribe. And if you're watching, or if you're rather listening to this on the audio platforms, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes, don't forget to leave a rating as well. James, once again, thank you so much for coming on.